Hey everyone, welcome back to Max Solo Music. My name is Max, and this is the Harley Benton Amarok-6 detailed review part 2. Some of you have probably already watched the first part of this video with all facts and details about this guitar. If you haven't, there's a link for you in that corner. Maybe it makes sense to watch that video first, but in this one I'll share some more details and facts about this guitar with you, as well as my personal opinion, feelings and first impressions about this guitar. It is also the first time I'm using this new condenser mic for one of my videos, which is Lead LCT441 Flex, and I'm curious if you're gonna like the sound of these more than what I usually use. And by the way, if you haven't subscribed to my Instagram yet, I'd really appreciate if you do. That's where you can find beautiful close-ups of guitars, quick shootouts and demos on many different things, as well as regular updates on what's going on here and what I'm currently working on. Alright, now back to the video. Here's the list of guitars I reviewed so far and penalty points they received. The Amarok-6 has got 4 penalty points, which is pretty good, but if not the fretboard radius, it could have 3, and it literally takes one line of text at the official website in the specs to fix that. And as always, the position in this list doesn't make any specific guitar better or worse than other guitars on the list. It simply tells us that some guitars may have slightly more unexpected little things about them than the others. Let's talk about pickups. If you were paying attention, you might have noticed that what we have here in Amarok-6 looks slightly different to what regular retroactive pickups look like in other guitars. I've spent quite some time trying to figure out what they are exactly. I've even contacted EMG about this. Turned out, this is a custom order made by EMG specifically for Harley Benton Amarok guitars. These pickups have black ball pieces and no adjustment screws. And even though the neck pickup has a silver logo, it still carries an Alnico 5 magnet. The bridge pickup is F-spaced with 52mm between the ball pieces, and the neck pickup is standard sized with 49mm. In the previous video I said these pickups are high output, but what I actually meant with that is that they are very high output, and even with the cleanest amp, it may still be a challenge to make them actually sound clean. My approach to that is to set them as far away from the strings as possible. But some of you reported that removing the battery may help. The pickups still work, surprisingly, and the output gets lower. Well, it would never cross my mind to try using active pickups without a battery, but let's check what it sounds like. Here it is with the battery first. Wow, the difference is huge, enormous. I'm surprised it worked at all. But I wouldn't be doing that. I wouldn't be removing the battery, because what is the point in having active pickups in your guitar in that case? Simply rolling down the volume knob a bit probably helps better in terms of bringing the output level down. There is one more thing I have to say about pickups. My room, my studio, has a presence of some strong electromagnetic fields. And it's bad from some perspective, for example recordings, because there's a lot of hum happening, but at the same time it is good for testing different things, for example guitar pickups, because if there is any potential hum problems with pickups in this room, it will be revealed right away. And I've actually noticed that there is some hum happening on the neck pickup. So here's the bridge, it's clean, and here's the neck. Bridge, neck. I think you can hear that. The only difference between these two pickups is that the neck pickup has an Alnico magnet instead of a ceramic magnet in the bridge pickup. So it turns out pickups with Alnico magnets tend to attract some more hum than pickups with ceramic magnets. That was on a high gain channel, by the way, but as I said, this is a very rare case, which is probably like 1% of all cases, so most of you will never experience anything like this. But still, I think it is important that I tell you about this possibility. In the previous video, I've mentioned that this guitar has 500k pots installed instead of 25k pots, which usually come with active pickups. And I didn't give this guitar a penalty point because I don't think it changes the sound, but some of you disagreed. So I have a couple of 25k pots here which came with my new Fishman Fluence pickups, so let me just swap them real quick and then I'll give you some before and after examples of what it sounds like. So, what do you think? Let's discuss that in the comments. Okay, the following section will be helpful for those of you who have a guitar from the first batch with a problematic output jack connector that doesn't work properly. Well, first of all, let's try to figure out what is wrong with it. Here I have another connector which is very similar. I'll put the plug in it and look at this very lug, how it holds the connector in place. It is really tight actually. Okay, now let's try to do the same with this one and look at the difference. So there is nothing really that would be holding the connector in place because the shape of this lug is slightly different. What I would do, I would just swap these connectors, but if a solder iron is not your best friend, you may be looking for some other solution. So let me try to reshape this lug and see if I will be able to make it work right. Yeah, with some brute force, turns out I was able to make it work. Let me put it all together and try it once again. Still looking good. It's firm. Yeah, so that was a very easy fix that anyone can do. What's the total length of this guitar? Well, let's find out. It is 99.2 centimeters or slightly over 3 feet 3. That is a little bit longer than a Strat, but still Amarok will fit into a standard gig bag without any problems. And here's the tuning machine's gear ratio. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18. It is 18 to 1. How tight are the knobs? Well, the tone knob is medium tight, while the volume knob is tighter, but at the same time the other two Amaroks that I have here have different volume pots, so it is a little bit random with Harley Bentons. Now, what do I actually think about this guitar? Well, let's start from the beginning. I first time saw pictures of Amarok a couple of months before it was officially released, I think in February 2020. I knew the specs, I knew it was going to be the new flagship, and the expectations were very high. But when the guitars arrived, and I've got 3 of them, the 6th string, the baritone and the 7th string, and I opened the box, honestly, I was a little bit disappointed. And today, months later, I actually understand why I felt that way. So here's what happened. You know that previously I reviewed Fusion 2 and Fusion T guitars, and Harley Benton has done a very good job with them from every single aspect: specs, cosmetics, and consistency. Those guitars don't have many issues, or maybe most of them were fixed by the time I was looking at them. Anyhow, they raised the bar very high with the Fusions, and naturally, automatically, I've expected Amaroks to be better than that, higher than that, and that didn't really happen. Well, the specs are there, and they are impressive. They are actually better than Fusion specs, but the cosmetics and consistency are on a lower level. And this time I have 3 guitars, so I kind of have a better overview of what's going on. So it feels like Amaroks are a little bit more of a lottery than Fusion series guitars, at least judging by the guitars from the first batch, because this is what I have here. And hopefully some of these things have improved by now, but I never had a chance to check any newer guitars. And I'm not talking about specs, I'm only talking about finish inconsistencies. Look at this place, it is very clean on this guitar. Not so much on the other guitar though, and it doesn't look very good on the 7th string neither. Dust in the finish, yeah, you can see it right there, and the finish itself is not smooth, it is not very pleasant to touch, at least not until you spend hundreds of hours playing this guitar and polishing it with your hands. Some parts of this guitar are very rough and unpleasant. This part is fine though. Again, inconsistency. I now know that it is a common thing with satin finishes, and that smooth satin finishes begin at a much higher price point. But months ago, when I opened the box and touched this guitar for the first time, it kinda took me off guard. So my expectations were too high, but now, sometime later, I see that compared to similar guitars in the same price range, Amarok has better specs. And at the same time, many guitars with satin finishes have exactly the same inconsistency issues. I'm guessing that is happening because of how factories approach satin finishes at this price point. They're not getting much attention, and as a result, there is inconsistency. With all that being said, I now have a much better feeling about this guitar. I even like it. It's fun to play, it is comfortable, it does the job, and it feels just right for the price. It doesn't feel like a more expensive instrument. It probably would with a smoother satin finish or with a glossy one, but as it is now, it feels just right for the price. I said feels because from the specs perspective, it can easily be compared to much more expensive instruments. Where would I place this guitar on a scale from a Strat to a Les Paul? Well, 2 humbuckers, no coil split, definitely closer to a Les Paul. But as always, let me just play the same riff on this guitar, on my American Strat and on Les Paul kind of guitar, and you tell me where would you place it. And let's talk about this in the comments below. And I'll be using the clean channel of Huizenga Black Spirit 200. Let's go to the Crunch channel. As always, for all sound examples, I used my favorite impulse response, which is a 1x12 speaker cab with a vintage 30 speaker inside. If you like the sound, you can, and I believe you should, grab the whole impulse pack at my website, link below. What about versatility? Is this guitar versatile? Well, it's good for heavy stuff and drop tunings, but for playing lots of different styles? Not really. With only 3 available sounds and all of them being that fat, it's not a funk machine, it's a metal axe. Can I imagine myself playing a gig using this guitar? Yep, absolutely. If only I had a metal band to play a gig with, and if gigs were not banned in 2020. Is there anything I would change in this guitar if I were you? Well, not really. I would only get rid of the harp at the headstock using one of those string dampers. If you want to know what this is and how to find noise, not only at the headstock but in general, check my noise mechanics video, and as always, I'll give you a link to the damper in the description below. For myself personally, I would change strap buttons to strap locks to make this guitar compatible with all my guitar straps, and by the way, I didn't mention the position of the strap button before, which is not necessarily comfortable. And other than that, there is some space for push-pulls here, but it is a little bit tricky with active pickups. Standard schematics won't work, but here are some ideas that you could use. There's PI2, which is a push-pull with phase reversal. There's also the afterburner, which is a 20 dB boost with a control that goes instead of the tone knob. If you don't want to sacrifice the tone knob, with some skills you might be able to integrate the PA2, which is another boost preamp by EMG. From the setup perspective, this guitar is very user-friendly, and I would even say beginner-friendly. It only needs one Allen wrench, which is included, to set the string height, and a Phillips screwdriver to set the scale. And that's it, as simple as that. And even with low action, there is still enough space for adjustments, and at the same time the adjustment screws don't stick out of the saddles and won't scratch your hand. Now, for the sake of the experiment, the action is set pretty low, and there is about 1.2 mm above the 12th fret on the first string, and about 1.5 mil on the 6th string. There is a little bit of a fret buzz, but nothing dramatic, it's all playable. I've heard reports about the nut being too tall and the strings being too high on the first fret, but I kinda have the opposite situation here, with some strings actually being too low on the first fret. But as I said, my guitar is from the first batch, and I don't know if that has changed since then. Okay, I think that's it for now. Thanks for watching and stay tuned for the next video. Hey, you've reached the end of the video, and I really appreciate that. I hope you enjoyed it. I actually want to get to know you guys, so before you go, please leave me a comment below. Just, say where you're from, what's your favorite guitar or guitar pedal, and how you came across my channel. If you want to support what I do, there's Patreon, and other than that, thanks again, and I'll see you in the next video someday soon.